Prepare to step into a world where imagination knows no bounds as we present legends, loot, and lore. Join host, DM, and self-confessed dice goblin Andrew, who will guide you every step of the way into the realm of Dungeons & Dragons. From actual gameplay and cooking up delicious D&D foods to interviews with other D&D fans and newbies, this podcast is your gateway to becoming the hero of your own story. Whether you're a new adventurer or a seasoned traveler seeking new insights, Legends, Loot, and Lore has something for everyone. After the episode, visit our website at www.legendslootandlore.com for even more resources and exclusive content. And if you're as passionate about this adventure as we are, help support our quest at legendslootandlore.supercast.com. Embark on this odyssey with us and let the echoes of ancient tales guide you toward a destiny filled with limitless possibilities. Roll for initiative, because your adventure begins now.
Welcome, adventurers, to another fun, exciting, just jam-packed full of interesting tidbits of information. Today is a new episode of Legends, Loot, and Lore. We've got our Mountain Dew and our Funyuns, and we're ready to talk all things television with our guest, Catherine.
Hello.
Hello, Catherine.
Am I even a guest anymore? I'm always here.
You're always here. Special guest star. Gonna have to bump you up to recurring cast,
right?
When we renegotiate your contract.
Am I getting paid for this? I didn't think there was any pay for this.
Not at all.
Yeah,
not at all. So Catherine has been diligently watching episodes of television, all about Dungeons and Dragons. So we can talk about that today. Before we dive into everything, I just want to first thank everyone who listens to the podcast. I look at all the analytics and see it's fascinating to see where everybody is from. So thank you for everybody out there, wherever you are, for listening to this wonderful little podcast of ours. It really is a labor of love. So thank you for that. The other thing we should talk about, because we've gotten a few episodes into season 2 now, and big question is, where is Joe?
Who?
Exactly. No. My co-host, Joe.
Joe?
Joe.
Oh, Joe.
You know Joe.
I do know Joe. I know Joe really well, actually.
Yes, you do.
I do.
So season 2 took on a new twist. Our good co-host and friend Joe has gotten engaged. Congratulations, Joe and Christine. So he is busy off in wedding planning land. So he is not joining us for season 2. Maybe when things settle down, he'll be back to join us. But that is where Joe has gone off to. So we wish him well, and hopefully this new side quest that he's on will be tremendously wonderful and happy for him. We couldn't be more excited for the two of them. So best of luck to you both. Now, on to the fun stuff.
Oh, is Joe's wedding not fun?
Joe's wedding's not fun.
Oh, I see.
Well, it hasn't taken place yet.
Well, no. And wedding planning, honestly, would not want to do again, so.
No.
Yeah.
Did that? You did that once.
Yep.
Anyway.
You were helpful.
I was helpful.
You were.
I was just going to say I've done it more than once.
Well, yes. You had experience.
That's right. Not my first rodeo.
All right.
So why don't you take our listeners through? So we're going to talk about what a website Inverse has called the 13 best D&D episodes from TV. And they rank them from, I don't want to say worst to best, but I guess maybe favorite to
Yeah.
least favorite to favorite, maybe. I don't know what their ranking criteria was for these. Just sheer opinion on which one they liked best.
And I disagree with some of it. But.
Absolutely, we definitely disagree with some of the ordering of these, but we will discuss that. So we're going to take these in order. We'll talk about the episodes themselves, some of the themes that these episodes touch upon, and other things like that. So.
And I'm assuming you'll link to the article in the show notes because it does, for the most part, tell people where to watch these things.
Yes.
So
I will.
I've got to say, you mind if I jump in and say a little bit?
Jump right in.
So I had this idea a little while ago when I got, shall we say, roped into what was originally going to be DMing the new campaign and then became me becoming a rock gnome. And I was thinking about just how prevalent D&D actually has been in pop culture for a very long time, but it wasn't really until Stranger Things, and not even the first season of Stranger Things, really the Eddie Munson Hellfire Club season of Stranger Things, where it really blew up, in the mainstream, which I find fascinating. I know Fable mentioned in our last episode that their D&D club at school went from, I don't know, something like 5 or 6 kids, and then they got like another 20 because of Stranger Things. And that's when I started thinking about how interesting it would be to look at how different TV shows had handled Dungeons and Dragons, and where I might have remembered it, like I did from an episode of Buffy, and where I'd kind of forgotten it, and where maybe I never noticed it before. So I started Googling and found this article from inverse.com where they rated what they considered the 13 best episodes of Dungeons and that feature Dungeons and Dragons. And these are mostly mainstreamy shows that feature it in some way, not shows that are specifically about it. So you're not going to have like your Vox Machina or Critical Role or something like that, because those are obviously influenced by D&D. That's their whole deal.
They are D&D.
Exactly. So these are more of some comedies, some dramas, some cartoons that feature D&D in one way or another. So I enjoyed watching most of what was on this list. I think I really liked the Futurama episode, but I would have loved it if it were shorter. So
yeah, that one I did not watch. I watched a good portion of these, but I did not watch them all. So
So some of them I'll speak to.
Yes.
And some of them we'll both speak to.
Are you ready to dive in?
Yeah. Let's do it.
So up first, which will be my first disagreement, number 13 is The Big Bang Theory's The Love Spell Potential episode, which is season 6, episode 23.
And by the way, there are 2 episodes on here where the episode numbers they have don't match what's on the article or what's on like the streaming services.
Right.
So I will call those out when we get to them, just
Excellent.
so that people know what they're looking for.
Fabulous. Thank you. So this is one I watched as well. So what's your, let's get your take first.
Okay. I know there's a lot of controversy over Big Bang Theory. People either seem to love it or hate it. For me, it's a big comfort show. Like whenever I travel for work, if I'm in a hotel, when I fall asleep, I've got Big Bang Theory in the background because it's just kind of always there, and it's stupid, and I don't feel bad if I miss some of it.
Right.
So I like Big Bang Theory. I enjoyed this episode. I thought it was fun to see, somebody like Penny, who is clearly not into all of the, for lack of a better term, nerd things that Sheldon and Leonard are into.
Right.
But play it anyway and to some extent enjoy herself. But I liked the way they used it to explore some of what was going on in Sheldon and Amy's relationship. Because love spell has been put on their characters and Amy gets really upset and it kind of forces a conversation, which is great. I also really loved all of Wolowitz's voices throughout the episode. He does a lot of impressions, and it gave him an opportunity to really utilize those impressions, which was a lot of fun.
Yes, indeed.
There was Nick Cage, Christopher Walken,
little Al Pacino in there.
Yes.
He was. I got to jump in because these were his voice work is amazing.
Yeah.
His Nick Cage is great.
It was fantastic.
It was so good.
I love how the last two words of everything were shouted.
Yes, you always shout the end of the sentence, but yeah, it was for me. We've talked about this on the podcast before, how Dungeons and Dragons can be a vehicle for dealing with very complex issues in people's lives and addressing them in a way that is not necessarily so overwhelming as maybe sitting in therapy or things like that, or like a traditional therapy session. So it's because you're playing as a character, so you're not necessarily yourself, but it is you because you embody the character. Yeah. But we talked a lot about this with Ryan McLaughlin and Dr. Cannell in the episode about D&D and therapy and therapeutic sessions and in school scenarios. So again, dealing with a very serious relationship issue between
Sheldon
and Amy. I keep wanting to say Penny. Sheldon and Amy.
I do too, but yeah.
But and it also ties in the whole thing about how D&D is just a bunch of nerdy guys sitting around a table. You know, this is men and women coming around the table and finding their own way to enjoy it. And I think that's what it's about. It's what you bring to it. It's not really about D&D itself. It's sure it's a nerdy game, but it's a role playing game. So whatever you put into it, I think you get out of it.
Yeah.
And I think the three women of the Big Bang Theory really started to grasp that in this episode. Any other thoughts?
No, I think that's it for this one.
That's that one?
Yep.
Number 12, South Park's Bored Girls.
I loved this one.
Is this correct when it says season 23, episode 7?
Yes.
Excellent. So again, another one I watched with you because it's South Park. Yeah. First and foremost.
This was fun though.
Yeah. So talk about the episode.
So basically the boys of South Park have a game club. I think they play more than just D&D, but D&D is part of it.
Yes.
And it's the Dice Studs Gamers Club.
Yes, it is.
And two girls decide that they want to join and, of course, are encouraged by the school because everything should be equal. And the boys have a really hard time with it because the girls are really good at all the games. So,
it's first of all, it's just this is a boys club kind of thing. It's like, they don't say it's a boys club, but they're like, but there are no girls. So like, now they're like, what do we do now that there are girls here?
It's also the Dice Studs.
Well, it is the Dice Studs. So, okay, fair. So they are the Dice Studs. Now these two girls want to join. And it's so funny because, yeah, the girls just like, they don't take over, but they're just so far better at the games.
They read the instructions.
They read the instructions.
They watch YouTube tutorials.
It's amazing. I love their painting of the miniatures when they break out their cases of miniatures. They're like, you paint your miniatures? They're like, oh yeah, we watched a YouTube tutorial about it.
And then eventually, Cartman goes to is it the school board? I think
he goes to the school board.
Where he's fighting for segregation of the clubs. And so he ends up winning somehow. And there are boys' clubs and girls' clubs. And the girls' club when they enter is straight up packs. Like, it's tables of
Yes.
gameplay, it's painting miniatures over here. It's like this wonderful fantasy world of gaming, and the boys are just absolutely horrified. It's so much better than what they have.
Exactly. Yeah, it does. It reminded me so much of PAX. You got tables of different types of games. It's like, here's your RPGs. Like here's like your other games, and they've got this elaborate club
that.
And tons of girls playing all these games.
I like the one where it's like, that's not even out yet. Oh yeah, we get screeners.
Oh yeah, because they've got like a video.
Yes.
They do like a video show about reviewing games. A YouTube channel reviewing games. It's amazing.
That was so good. The rest of the episode was typical South Park kind of insane satire,
yes.
But the D&D and like the gaming portion was very, very funny.
It really was. It was just funny to see all these girls just just reading the rule books, watching video tutorials. Yeah. They just like aced this role-playing game, playing D&D with the boys, and it was just so funny to see.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that episode. I haven't watched South Park in a long time, but I liked that a lot.
That was a really good episode. Now on to number 11, the Sarah Silverman program, which I have honestly never watched.
Me either. And I like Sarah Silverman.
I love Sarah Silverman.
But I just had never seen this before.
Yes. So this is an episode called Board of the Rings, Season 2, Episode 1. So what happens in this episode as far as D&D is concerned?
So Sarah has a pair of next door neighbors, a gay couple named Brian and Steve. And I guess it is D&D Day on the calendar. It says DD Day, which Brian interprets as Dungeons and Dragons Day, yes. But it actually meant day date. So
oops.
Steve is all put out because they were supposed to go to the park and have a picnic and do all sorts of stuff. And
Steve got all dressed up.
Yeah.
He was so put out that he got all dressed up for this thing. And
all the nerds are showing up to play D&D in their costumes with their, they're ready to go. So it's a show that ends in the D&D group going to try to save a clinic that's being blown up. So it's goofy and funny. But I don't even know if I would put it on this list. Honestly, I didn't think it was as compelling as some of the others.
There are some funny parts to it.
Sure.
The one that jumps out at me is when Steve, the angry boyfriend, he's like, do you even realize what time of day it is?
That was so good.
And he like rips this like blanket off the window, and it's like daytime again. He's like, you've been playing all night long. They're like, what?
Yeah.
They don't even realize it because they're just having so much fun. And I think that's one of the things about D&D. It really is. You can really lose yourself in the game. Yeah. And these guys do that quite dramatically, by playing all night long, powered by it looks like Tab and Funyuns in the episode still.
I mean, this was 2003, so.
Wow, that was 2003. My goodness, yeah. Interesting. But yes, and they do save the clinic miraculously.
Of course.
But Steve gets shot by a crossbow.
Yes.
Right in the butt.
Yep.
That was fun.
Obviously.
I would probably leave that on here. Again, I'd leave it in the double digits, but I'd keep that on here. Now let's go to one of your favorite, not one of your favorite, your favorite show.
Yeah. All time.
Of all time. Number 10 on the list is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, episode Chosen.
This is the series finale.
This is the series finale of Buffy.
Yep.
So a little late to the game to talk about D&D, but So what is your take on Buffy? Oh, fan of fans.
I mean, this is a very brief scene within a very fraught episode, so I actually like it for what it does. It's Giles and Dawn and Xander, and why can't I think of his name right now?
I don't know.
Andrew.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's his name.
No, but
I couldn't think of it.
You couldn't remember that name.
Haven't we discussed the fact that I have a mental block toward characters and other people named Andrew? Because I do. I can never remember other people named Andrew. It's really weird.
That is weird. I know we've had this conversation before, but...
So, anyway.
Interesting.
So, it is Giles, Xander, Dawn, Andrew playing while Anya sleeps because they cannot sleep because they're about to go battle the big bad evil and they don't know if they'll come out alive. And so it's a reprieve from their anxiety, and it gives them something to do while they're not sleeping because they're, kind of the extra characters who don't have a lot of skin in the game. But it comes with the best line ever where Giles is playing a wounded dwarf with the mystical strength of a doily.
The mystical strength of a doily.
It does make me
You love
laugh.
that line.
I do. I mean, it's up there with Giles's best lines, although there are others like, "Look at my mask. Isn't it pretty? Americans." Oh, I'm sorry. "It raises the dead. Americans."
Very nice.
So yeah, I mean, it's a very fun kind of reprieve in the middle of a very serious episode where like a lot was going on. So it's fascinating that they even worked this in, honestly, because you have the very brief return of Angel to help out. You've got, like all sorts of stuff happening. Spike becomes a true champion, and all of the potential slayers become slayers, come into their slayer power, and then have to like fight the big bad. So it's kind of a fun couple of minutes in the middle of a very tense episode.
Right. I think the one thing that this article pointed out, which is a really good point, it's a nice callback to one of probably the inspirations for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That probably a lot of people on the staff of that show have been players of Dungeons and Dragons. So it was a nice kind of just homage to the game that helped probably in some way, shape, or form get Buffy to be created. There's a lot of things in Buffy that feel very D&D-ish over the course of the show. So this was just a nice kind of short little wink and nod to the game and all that it had to contribute to the show of Buffy.
I might have added this to the honorable mentions area. Like they have I mean, I love it. And believe me, I'm always delighted to see Buffy listed in anything because it is truly my favorite show and probably always will be. But this is a very short piece.
Right. It's like almost like blink and you'll miss it.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking an hour-long show, so that's like 42 minutes without the commercials, and it's maybe like 2 minutes of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, again, like you said, it's a nice nod.
Yep.
Probably an honorable mention, not necessarily number 10 on the list. Next up is number 9, Gravity Falls, episode title, Dungeons, and More Dungeons. And this was from season 2. And this is episode 13. So this is one I did not watch. So tell me all you know about this Gravity Falls episode.
This was actually a lot of fun.
Was it?
Yeah. So of course, Dipper is a fan of Dungeons, and More Dungeons, which is a D&D, obviously.
Right.
Inspired game. And so they live with their one great uncle, and they have the other great uncle who kind of just came back on the scene. And this is an opportunity for Dipper to bond with him because the other uncle has this weird mystical polyhedral die that actually takes them into the world of D&D, and then they have to play against all of the characters from the game to defeat them and come back into the real world, and it's a lot of fun. The quote they mention in here is really funny because Dipper's trying to get his great uncle and is Mabel his sister? I have no idea. Other kid.
Right.
This is a show that I kind of have dipped in and out of, but I never really watched. But she says this is like homework the game because there's so much math.
There's a lot. It is. They call them math rocks for a reason. You got to do a lot of math.
Yeah.
Shout out to Steve, who's always complains about having to do all the math. But he never forgets to rage.
No, he always rages.
Always rages.
The other quote that they call out in here that is very funny is only a game designed by nerds would have charisma as a fantasy power.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It was a really cute episode. I enjoyed it. It was one of two. This one and the Voltron episode actually took the characters into, well, actually no, I guess also Futurama, so 3.
Okay.
But really took them into the actual game, and you see the characters that they're fighting against become real, and it's pretty cool actually. It was fun.
That is cool. It makes it. I guess that's the luxury you have being an animated series where you can actually transport your characters into the game.
Yeah.
But again, brings up a very interesting point that we've mentioned this before. What happens is when people discuss sessions of D&D, it's never, do you remember when my character did this?
Right.
When my character did that? It's like, do you remember when we drew our swords and we battled the hobgoblins and shot them with our crossbows and you and I, we had advantage on the one. We hit them from both sides. It's like you recall the action kind of in a first person position. You don't think of it as my character did this and my character did that. It's I did this or we did that. So you get very drawn into the story.
Yeah. And
an animated show can really make that point that you really do get drawn into the story. It's almost like your LARPers for real world IRL. Hello, Kat.
Oh, I think this was the one.
Yes.
Too, where the other people were LARPing. That you just reminded me of that.
Were people LARPing?
Other characters that were like, oh, I don't want to play that game because I prefer, they called it something else. It was florping or something.
Florping.
And there was a definition of florping, but it was LARPing. And they're all out there in their cardboard outfits with egg cartons taped to their chest.
Amazing.
And at the end they talk about do we use this to avoid the realities of life? And it was very funny.
Aw.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
I've got Dee Dee over here. Give me 1 second.
Yes.
What are you doing, Peanut? You want to come here?
Cat time on the podcast.
Come on, Peanut. Come here. Want to come to Mama? Come on. Come on, baby. No, you don't. You want to sit on that chair and keep trying to get in my lap? You gonna come down? What are you doing? Hi. All right, but don't be digging those claws into my leg. All right. Next.
All right, so let's. Yes,
this is one with a wrong episode.
This is one with the wrong episode. So number 8. Number 8 comes Teen Titans Go, episode called Riding the Dragon. So what is the actual season episode? Is it season 3?
It is season 3, but on Max it was episode 51.
So streaming this on Max, you'll see it as episode 51. The article labels it as episode 50.
Yes.
So another one I didn't get to watch. So talk to us about
Okay, this one was tough for me because
Riding the
I
Dragon.
have literally never watched an episode of Teen Titans Go. So
All right.
I don't know who most of these people other than Cyclops and Robin are, but we'll just go with that.
Okay.
They're playing a game called Dragon's Fire, and it's everyone but Robin, and they basically just enjoy riding the dragon. You know, they're all on the dragon, they're singing about riding the dragon. But then Robin shows up and he insists on following the rules.
Joe.
So
Joe is our rule keeper.
Basically ruins everybody's good time.
Joe does not do that, by the way. Joe does not ruin our good time by sticking to the rules. But yeah, so there are, and we've talked about this, the rule of cool. You know what? It's all about what's going to make a fun, enjoyable session for everybody. So it's not about adhering perfectly to all the rules. You know, if something is, if your party, your characters want to do something kind of outside of the box, you know, roll with it. If it's something they're going to enjoy doing and worth giving a try, let them do it. And I think that's a good point to learn from this, is that you don't have to follow the rules strictly when you're playing D&D. It's a great guideline. It's a great basis, but you can always jump off from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you're going to ruin the game if you don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It was a cute little episode, but yeah, I mean, it was difficult for me. Most of these I've seen at least an episode or two of before, so I had a feeling for who the characters were. This one I had absolutely no idea, so a little more difficult. But
how would you rank this? Would you put this at an 8? Like how?
Honestly, I would move Gravity Falls up a bit.
Yeah.
I would definitely move Big Bang Theory up.
Yeah, for sure.
This I could move down a little bit, maybe into the double digits. But I do get what they're saying with it. It was an important episode in terms of what you just talked about. Like, you don't always strictly have to follow the rules in order to have a good time.
Exactly. That's a good lesson to learn from that episode, for sure.
On the next one, I want to mention something too after you talk about it.
Okay.
Or when you introduce it.
Okay. So number 7 on the list from the IT Crowd, which is a show that I very much like and enjoy. Yeah. The episode is titled Jen the Fredo. Season 4, episode 1. So
now the article is from last year and states that it's on Netflix, but it's no longer on Netflix. It's only available on BritBox. I bought this episode, but you could totally do a free trial of BritBox if you wanted to watch it. And I think this one's worth watching. It was a lot of fun.
I think the show is fun in general. If you are a What We Do in the Shadows TV show fan, Matt Berry, Laszlo Cravensworth.
And here I thought that was just a voice he put on for Laszlo. Turns out that's his voice.
Great to see him there. Chris O'Dowd is in this show, who's fantastic. So Jen gets a job as the entertainment manager.
Yes.
So she's in charge of entertaining various clients or vendors that come into town. So anyone coming from out of town, she's got to basically show them the town and show them a good time.
But everyone tries to talk her out of this job because it's not just showing them a good time, it's showing them a particularly sexist type of good time.
Yes. So typically the people coming into town are men, and they're looking for a wild, raucous, debaucherous time. And so when in the one scene when the 3 guys come in for the first time and Matt Berry's character introduces them to her, they think she's the entertainment. And he's like, no, she's the entertainment manager. And so she's got to figure out how to entertain them for, I think they were in town for a week.
Because it turns out the vagina monologues was not the appropriate place to take them.
No, it was not. Not at all. So eventually she sent, and there's a subplot that we'll talk about, but eventually she sends them down to Moss.
One more time.
Woo! She sends them down to Moss, and he is playing a game. He's hosting a game of D&D. And so again, we have this is the first time I think we have the two cool people,
right,
they're too cool for D&D.
Yep.
Are now getting exposed to it. And surprise, surprise, they end up having a
great time,
grand old time playing D&D. Really love it. And had just a tremendous time. So what else did you get from this episode?
So Chris O'Dowd's character, Roy, has just gotten dumped and is devastated and moping and just kind of pathetic. He's photoshopped her out of every picture, which is hilarious because then it's just him doing everything alone, riding a bicycle built for two by himself on a teeter-totter alone. Yes. It's great. It's really funny. But Moss has really built this game as a way for Roy to be able to get closure on that relationship. Mm-hmm. And it ends up being this kind of like emotionally touching point in time for all of these kind of alpha male obnoxious guys. Right. So I think they did a really nice job of kind of building it up and then having these guys all kind of be so delighted with it as a game and as an activity that like they're so happy with her as the entertainment manager.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It goes back to the therapeutic benefits of Dungeons and Dragons, of role-playing, tabletop role-playing games in general, that Chris O'Dowd's character, Roy, he's not able to get closure from this relationship breakup. And so Moss's character builds into the game the ability for him to get closure in a similar manner to what he'd experienced in real life and really feel that kind of that sense of relief and being able to move on. Because in the episode, he's just moping around the office. He's just crying. He's terribly upset and broken up about this relationship ending and really not getting to, because she never said goodbye to him.
Right.
And so now he got the chance to let all that emotion out and say goodbye, hear this character in the story say goodbye, and that translated into his personal life. So again, tremendous benefits of tabletop role-playing games in therapeutic situations. And this was, I think, in a comedy, it was really very
kind of poignant.
It was a very touching real moment. So for him, which I thought was great. On to number 6.
This is a good one.
Oh, yes.
I actually made Andrew watch this when he came home yesterday because I enjoyed it so much.
So worth it. I don't even remember this episode when it aired. So number 6 on the list, another favorite show of mine, The Goldbergs. And the episode is called Dungeons and Dragons. Anyone? Season 3, episode 20. Lay out the story for us.
So, obviously, Adam and his friends are nerds, and this is when Adam was really tiny too. So it was cute
so
to
young.
see like
my God.
Adam again.
Yes.
So the Adam piece of the storyline, because there's a separate storyline that's going on about his sister going to college and the fallout of the parents with that, but. The Adam piece of it is talking about the hierarchy of gym class, right? Like how the losers always get picked last. So it's always the nerdy kids who are not very athletic who are getting picked last. And so Adam and Dave Kim and their other friends, are lamenting how they're never going to get to be cool now while they're still in middle school. But when they get to high school, their brains will be the thing. And of course, Big Tasty shows up out of nowhere to disabuse them of that idea. but gives Adam the idea to go to the coach and ask to be able to be a team captain so he can pick teams.
Right.
Of course, he gets carried away and
little power went to his head.
Yeah, and picks all the athletes and leaves his friends in the dust.
And he's got the thought process. He's like, well, because I'll be cool.
Yes.
And through me, you guys can become cool.
But I'll have to be pretty mean to you for a while. Yeah.
So that turns out terribly.
So of course the jocks destroy the other kids in basketball, and the coach is so horrified by it that he says that Dave Kim can be the captain and he can choose the game the next time.
Yes,
so
that's the key part here. And what does he choose?
D&D tournament module.
That's right.
So they sit down to play, and Adam's trying to teach the jocks how to play D&D, and it's going terribly.
Yes.
There's a couple of them wrestling over here. There's what does the one want to do? Oh yeah, he wants to get a girl.
Right. Exactly.
And of course, it's Lord Big of Tasty to the rescue.
Lord Big of Tasty.
Because of course he's had a character sheet ready to go in case he was ever invited.
Absolutely.
And he kind of gets them into it, and ultimately the jocks get really into D&D as well. So It's a super even matchup when they arrive at the tournament. But ultimately, Adam throws it in a very nice callback to what'll happen if you touch a gelatinous cube.
I touched the Jello.
I touched the Jello.
That was great. Loved that scene.
It was very cute.
So much. Because it's every character has died except for him and Dave Kim. So they're the two characters remaining.
Yep.
And there's a gelatinous cube there
and the whole thing had been trying to teach the jocks that the gelatinous cube is going to kill you.
Right.
You know, you can't just attack the gelatinous cube. You can't throw things at the gelatinous cube.
Exactly.
So ultimately it becomes this thing about like understanding who your friends really are and where your loyalty lies, and doing that through the kind of guise of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes. And I love the poor coach because he's like, guys, it's 6:30. I just want my life back.
There's the line about he had no idea that it was going to last 4 hours. So good. Oh man.
But again, this touches on the point, and that D&D really is an inclusive game, and it's for anybody. It's not just for the nerds, you know. And it's even the most popular jocks in the school can get something out of it and really have a good time.
You can get caught up in kind of the joy of it.
Right. Absolutely. Most definitely. That was such a fun episode.
It was a great episode. I didn't remember it either, but I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, it was really good. It was a lot of fun. It was just, I mean, and I love Adam. He's so funny. He's just, it's just because because he comes down to the point. So he touches the Jello, the gelatinous cube, and he realized that it was more important to have his friends than to win.
Of course.
Which is a great point. You know, it's another great thing about D&D. It's about friendship.
Yeah.
You know, it's about the party itself. You know, it's the old rule, you know, you never split the party. You know, everybody stays together. That's what happens when you split the party. Bad things happen. So Adam realizes this and sacrifices himself and his team and a pizza party, because I think it was a pizza party.
One piece of pizza per child.
One slice per child.
Because Dave Kim was going to eat all the pepperoni.
He's like, I could eat all the pepperoni. Coach shouts, one slice per child. Watch the episode. It's great.
It's a really good episode. It was a lot of fun.
Definitely. Now on to, so the big one.
Which I think should be higher than number 5.
I mean, really, the only reason this article was written was because of this show.
Yeah.
Really.
This is what got me thinking about the whole thing.
Exactly. So number 5, a bizarre ranking for this. It's really 2 episodes ranked together. The show is Stranger Things. There's the episode called The Vanishing of Will Byers, which was season 1, episode 1, when it touches on.
Well, Mike has his whole game. He wrote the story.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the whole Demogorgon. I mean, they even turned it into a box of the game for people to play. Yeah. I mean, that's how popular it became. Mm-hmm. And also the episode Chapter 1, The Hellfire Club, which was season 4, episode 1, Eddie Munson, which was, I think, one of everybody's favorite characters other than the main actors. I think he's beloved.
Honestly, the breakout of D&D into mainstream culture in the 2020s, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. I mean, you see so much Hellfire Club merchandise.
Yeah.
If you go to the Comic-Cons and all of those things, it's just everywhere.
I'm looking
thanks
at the Funko Pop of Campaign Eddie with his awesome campaign setup.
Oh, yeah. I love that Funko. Thank you for that, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome. We should link to that because it was a Target exclusive, but it's pretty cool.
It really is. Campaign Eddie. But anyway, so let's talk about Stranger Things. And a lot of what happens in Stranger Things, it's very intertwined with D&D.
Your big bad in season 4, they refer to as Vecna.
Right.
Because that's the campaign they're playing.
Right.
And the big bad is Vecna.
Exactly.
So it's so ingrained in it. Season 1 is, Mike wrote this whole story, and then it turns out that's actually, happening.
Right.
The show itself is so just, grounded in Dungeons & Dragons, which is why I don't know why it's not higher on this list, because I'd say this is the most Dungeons & Dragons-y show that you could think of without it specifically being about Dungeons & Dragons, like a Critical Role or Vox Machina.
This is probably the most popular show on the list. In the late 20-teens, early 2020s.
I mean, Stranger Things is a sensation, right?
It is. So. It's hugely popular.
Yep.
Because Big Bang Theory was pretty popular, but I think Stranger Things is probably even more. I'd argue that it's more popular.
Two different genres too, right? You're looking at silly sitcom, and then, but again, I'd say Stranger Things is so much more just intrinsically entwined with D&D.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
You really can't have one without the other.
Right.
So that's why I think it should really be higher than number 5 on this list.
I agree. I completely agree.
I love Stranger Things. It's funny. I wasn't so much of an Eddie stan in the beginning. I had to really.
What?
I know. Well, see, and here's the thing too that I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit.
Yes.
So obviously, I have played D&D with you.
Yes, you have.
I DM'd Strahd. I am part of the current campaign, but it wasn't until this current campaign that I really started to love it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what the thing is that kind of clicked in me for this, but I didn't love it the way I do now when I was watching Stranger Things.
Right.
So it didn't mean as much to me. It didn't capture me in the way that it captured a lot of the kids who showed up for Fable's D&D group at school.
Right.
But I understand now I was willing to watch all these episodes of TV to talk about this today.
You were.
I understand now why it's kind of captured so many people over the years.
Sure.
I just really, I'm going to keep repeating myself, I think, if I try to talk about it more, because I really just they named the big bad after the character they were playing in D&D. It's that entwined, right? That is such a big part of how these kids bond, and such a big part of what makes Dustin feel accepted,
Right.
and his just absolute affection for Eddie and his willingness to be with him even when they're kind of facing certain death.
Right.
It shows a lot of like how much you can bond with people playing D&D.
Oh, sure.
I think part of the reason that I'm enjoying our new campaign is that we're playing with Fable and James. And it's 3 people then, you and Fable and James, who
Right.
I feel very comfortable with.
Okay, sure.
And all of you who are listening to me do a stupid voice. But
Well, I'm sorry. Who's your character?
Sandrose Bumble Bumble.
That's right. Proprietor of the Bemble Bumble B&B.
Who is just recruiting everybody that she comes across.
That's right. Absolutely.
But it's not that I haven't enjoyed it in the past. I've always enjoyed a one-shot because I didn't want to immerse myself in kind of the game itself. But I think I also have a lot more time right now.
Right.
I'm done with my MBA. I'm currently unemployed. So it doesn't feel...
Anybody looking for a marketing director out there?
Yeah, I love marketing campaigns. Please hire me. I like to work. I work so much work.
That's right. I work all the work.
So much work.
So much work.
That is a 90 Day Fiancé reference. In case anyone listening enjoys that, that is Ziad. He works so much work.
Yes. Anyway.
Yeah. So that's right. Stranger Things. It should be higher on the list. That's the last thing I have to say.
I agree. So two things that I took from, because I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen Stranger Things yet, but for me, it harkens back to the 80s, the satanic panic of the 80s with Dungeons and Dragons, because you had a lot of that because of what's happening in the episode.
Yeah.
So, because I think this episode takes place in the 80s, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is back in the 80s. So you're right back in the satanic panic. For those that don't remember those days, everybody thought they were summoning demons and the devil, and it was amazing.
That was the beginning of that Goldbergs episode where Beverly comes in and says that he can't play D&D because
Right.
She saw an episode of 2020 that talked about how bad it was.
That's right.
And then he pulls okay, mama, I won't play the thing that brings me joy. And she gives in.
That's right.
But what was it? You're a little devil, but you love mama's kisses.
Yeah, something like that.
Funny.
So cute.
Yeah.
But the other thing I love about this episode of Stranger, not this particular episode, but the season 4 of Stranger Things was Eddie's arc, because for a lot of it he is the dungeon master, and so the dungeon master really runs the game,
Yeah.
But in the end he got to be the hero, which I thought was super cool. Because it's the one kind of drawback to being the DM. You're not actually a character in the story. So for all the DMing that he was doing, kind of running the story, in the end he got to be the hero, which I thought was or not one of the heroes, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
So, all right, on to number 4 on the list. We're getting close.
Yep.
Futurama.
Yep.
Bender's Game.
So this says season 5, but when I streamed it on Hulu, it
Yeah.
came up as season 6.
Okay.
They called these movies because they're all about an hour.
Right.
It was episodes 9 through 12.
Episodes 9 through 12 of season 6, according to Hulu.
Yeah.
Got it.
I enjoyed this one. I
Yeah.
thought it got a little long. It basically starts out with the kids, and I don't know who these kids are. Again, I've watched Futurama. I'm not clear on some of this.
Right.
So these kids are playing D&D. They are using what turns out to be this... it's one of 2 crystals that'll render dark matter useless, which is what they use to power their ships, blah,
Okay.
blah, blah. But
Got it.
the only thing you need to know is that they're using the anti-dark matter crystal as their 12-sided die.
Oh my.
Yeah, so they've written numbers on it.
Oh my.
Yeah, so that becomes kind of the undercurrent of the whole episode is Mom, who's in charge of all of the dark matter mines, is trying to keep it away so that it doesn't render the dark matter useless because that's how she's made her fortune, blah, blah, blah. But Bender comes into this game of D&D and initially is like, do I even have an imagination? Because he can't come up with anything. Like, all he's doing is repeating what the other people are saying.
Right.
And finally creates a character, Titanius... Hold on, I have to look it up again. Titanius Anglesmith, Fancy Man of Cornwood.
All right, Titanius Anglesmith, Fancy Man.
So there's a whole dark matter mishap that causes them to go into the game. So this is another one of those like immersed in the game.
Got it.
Which is very entertaining, and it does, people start learning things about themselves, and they do spoof a lot of, like there are Star Wars references. There's a very heavy Hobbit, Lord of the Rings kind of influence where Fry basically becomes Gollum. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Because they have to destroy the anti-dark matter crystal.
Right.
It's the ring, and yeah.
Of course.
So they all kind of learn something about themselves, right? Like Leela is very, she's very violent, and she's learning how to become less so because, she's so done with just like randomly killing innocent people and beings and whatever.
Okay.
So
cool.
It's an interesting 4 episodes. I disagree that it should be this far up the list.
Right.
But I also feel like I just wasn't enjoying it that much. So
For the vast amount of content in it that is D&D related,
yeah,
I see why they might have ranked it that high. But
I think they
overall the quality of the
I think they liked the call outs to different like other kind of similar universes,
right.
Which I get, but yeah, it was a lot.
Interesting. But I like your point that they learned something about themselves. Yeah. Again, that's a common thread through a lot of these TV shows that people are learning things about themselves that they didn't realize. There's a tremendous amount of learning that can take place from D&D.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm just reading the inverse article. So it says earlier in season 2, the anthology episode Anthology of Interest 1 actually featured D&D co-creator Gary Gygax playing himself.
Yep.
The clip was included in the DVD release of Bender's game as a tribute to Gygax, who died during its production. So you can check that out as well. On to number 3, another favorite of yours.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Voltron, Legendary Defender.
Yeah.
The episode is called Monsters and Mana. Season 6, episode 3.
This is a fun
Tell us all about Voltron.
How long do you have? Keith was my boyfriend when I was in the 4th grade.
Was he really?
He was.
Which?
I mean, it was the original with the
with
the lion.
Which lion was he?
He's the red lion.
He's the head?
Charge lion, yes.
Ooh.
Uh-huh.
Well, now I get it.
Okay, so let me tell you why Tiny Catherine loved Voltron so much.
Please.
Because you had Princess Allura, who was an equal to the rest of the team.
Mm-hmm.
And little Catherine loved seeing women who were equal to their male counterparts. I didn't even realize that was what I was doing at the time, but I obviously was felt very strongly about being seen as an equal, even when I was like 7 or 8.
Interesting.
Yeah,
it's amazing what you see. Amazing what you pull out about yourself watching these.
Yeah,
watching these shows.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even as a little kid, I just wanted to make sure that, like, everybody knew I could do what they could do.
Right. That's great.
Yeah.
So a bunch of paladins playing D&D.
Yep.
So what happens in this episode?
Okay. Yeah, this is what I just wanted to clarify because there's no lance. Oh, no, wait, there is a lance. There's no Sven in Legendary Defender. There's Shiro. And
got it.
That is the character who who every time he dies, he becomes a paladin again. It's the only character he'll play.
That's all right.
And
again, I will shout out to our player Steve in our Monday night campaigns, who is always a barbarian. He has perfected every new campaign. It's a new barbarian. He's perfecting the barbarian class, which is great. He's almost to the point where he doesn't forget to rage, which is great. So that's a plus.
Yeah.
So we're good at that. So yeah. So there's nothing wrong with creating the same class of character every time you play.
I just think it's funny.
Go with what you like.
I think part of what they're pointing out with this particular one, is how the characters that you create in D&D can so much can tell so much about how you feel about yourself.
Mm-hmm. How so?
Well, I mean, so the Voltron Force basically are paladins, right?
Right.
They're these like noble forces for good,
mm-hmm.
and that's how he sees himself, right? Shiro sees himself that way, and so he's always going to be a paladin because that's who he is.
Right.
And I think that's kind of part of the episode is that like they all kind of fall back on the thing that they are.
Right.
You know, Allura is noble and she
mm-hmm.
is kind, and Pidge and Chunk, I don't know is he still Chunk? I see.
Can you call him Chunk anymore?
Call me Chunk if you want. I know Pidge is still Pidge.
Just is it not? I don't know what's.
Well, I mean, if Sven's not Sven anymore, what is my life?
Where did Sven go?
I don't know.
Sven, where are you?
Who is Keith dating in Voltron, Legendary Defender? Keith is dating Allura now? I'm confused.
Too much drama.
Shiro's married?
What has happened to Voltron? I haven't watched it, so.
Shiro is married to Curtis. That's cute. Huh. All right.
See, the things you learn.
Who knew?
The more you know. Do.
Are you very happy with yourself now?
That was great.
Lance, Shiro, Pidge. What is his character's name?
He doesn't have a name.
No name? Yeah, I don't think he's Chunk anymore.
It's like
That's
Fat Neil.
So sad for me. We'll get to Fat Neil. Okay, well, anyway. Everybody really uses their character to show who they are, right? So
I'll ask you a question.
Yes.
So you are playing Xanros Bemblebomble, who is a monk, a rock gnome monk.
Yeah.
So this was a character Joe and I created in preparation for this campaign. So what type of character would most reflect who you are?
That's a good question.
Isn't it? I'm here to ask the good questions.
Oh, thank you. Let's see. I'm thinking about what I would like the most.
Yes, think about this. Would you be a druid?
I might be a druid. My eye was drawn to druid. I might also be an elf.
Well, an elf is a race, druid is a class.
Oh, I don't know the difference between those things.
Okay.
Should I listen to your podcast?
You might want to go back a couple episodes. We touch on this.
Okay. Yeah, probably a druid. Maybe a rogue.
Really?
Yeah.
You see yourself as a rogue. Interesting.
No, see, I don't see myself as a rogue. I'd like to see myself as a rogue.
You'd like to see,
and
okay.
I think that's part of it too, right?
Right.
It's how you want
How
to
you want to
see
see yourself, sure.
So when I was a kid, in addition to Voltron,
Yeah.
I was very into He-Man,
Mm-hmm.
She-Ra, G.I. Joe,
Mm-hmm.
and I had created my own G.I. Joe character.
Nice.
And her code name was the Cat because she was so stealthy.
Clever.
Yeah.
I like that.
Also, it's my name.
Did her outfit have little ears?
This is not Batman.
Catwoman?
No.
Just the cat.
The Cat.
The cat.
That's her code name.
The cat.
Yeah. Because she's so stealthy.
Got it.
So I'm saying a rogue, stealthy.
Okay.
I feel like that could be a good fit as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dee Dee's back.
Hi, Dee Dee.
Hi, Peanut.
Are you coming up? You gonna jump up here?
She can't decide what she wants
Come
to
on.
do.
Come on, Dee Dee.
Oh, there's a good girl.
Dee Dee has entered the chat.
All right. All right. Should we keep going?
Yes, let's keep going. So,
Also, when we're done with these, I have one other thing I want to talk about because I found an awesome article about creating playable Buffy the Vampire Slayers and Slayer characters in Dungeons and Dragons.
really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That could be fun.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
We could replay Curse of Strahd with
Yeah.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer characters.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move on because we've got two left and then at least one honorable mention. This is an episode I absolutely loved. Freaks and Geeks. This is number 2 on the list. Freaks and Geeks. Episode is called Discos and Dragons. And it's season 1 episode. Well, I guess there was only one season of Freaks and Geeks.
This is both the season and series finale.
Yeah,
I believe.
this was it. So, so technically episode 18, but the last episode. So give us the synopsis.
So basically, you've got all the kids who do AV who are kind of nerdy and want to be cool and play Dungeons and Dragons. And then you have Daniel, who is played by James Franco, who is, I don't want to say cool, but like he's a stoner and he's very aloof. And he tries to pull the fire alarm during a final that he can't cheat on, so he doesn't want to fail.
Right.
And gets caught, and his punishment is to spend the rest of the year with the AV club. And ultimately, they end up inviting him to their game of D&D, which for some reason he attends, even though he's very confused by the whole thing.
Right.
And he ultimately becomes Carlos the dwarf.
I just love that.
Carlos.
Well, what was the other? Oh, well, we'll get to it. But
You're thinking advanced D&D?
when he makes up he's like, I'm not very creative with names.
Yeah.
Carlos the dwarf.
Bing bong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Okay. So it starts out with Daniel being real reticent about playing.
Yes.
He's not sure why he's there. He's not sure why this is cool. And by the end, he's like so into it.
Right.
So it's another one of those with the theme of like, oh, it kind of brings people together.
Right.
Because he immediately wants to play again tomorrow.
Yeah. So he's like, meet again tomorrow. And a couple of things that my takeaways from the episode.
Yeah.
First of all, one, just getting to see Jason Segel dancing disco.
So yeah,
for the other plot line to this episode, amazing. Him and was it Lizzie Kaplan as the disco duo, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. But again, it's because the one character, he thinks he's like. He had himself a girlfriend. He thinks he's like too cool to play D&D now. But then when James Franco's character agrees to play, then he's like, oh, maybe it is cool to play D&D. So he goes back and agrees to join them. So it was like it was a whole big thing. But again, it's just the whole notion that D&D is seen as a nerdy game, but it really isn't.
Yeah, anyone can get into
it.
If they give it the chance.
And the one thing that I find really interesting, I want to bring it up.
While you're doing that, I'm just going to mention that John Francis Daly, who is one of the
this is what I was going to mention.
Oh, you were going to talk about
this is what I was looking up. Okay. Yes. So
he's
John
one of
Francis
the
Daly,
co-directors
yes,
of Honor Among Thieves, the
correct
D&D movie.
Yes, it all comes full circle.
Yeah.
So John Francis Daly was one of the creators of the Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
I'm trying to see how long ago this was made because everyone was so young.
Oh my God.
Seth Rogen, James Franco, Jason. Why can't I think of his last name all of a sudden?
Jason Segel.
Thank you.
I think this was 2000 or 2002.
God, painful. Okay, well, I was pretty young back then too.
I'm going to look it up.
We were all pretty young back then.
Let's see. When was Freaks and Geeks was 1999 to 2000. Yeah, I thought it was early, right around then. So, yeah, they were all so young. Mm-hmm. Martin Starr.
Oh my God, he was so little.
Oh man, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Now they're all grown up making D&D movies of their own.
Yeah. Yeah, love the full circle on that because I guess he stopped acting and became a director, John Francis Daly, and yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, because Honor Among Thieves is a really fun movie.
I really enjoy that. I mean, we don't have to get into that at this point, but yeah, I dug Honor Among Thieves for many reasons. So yeah, it's just a cool kind of callback to Freaks and Geeks. Judd Apatow, who was one of the creators of the show. Yeah.
Oh, you don't say. It has like every actor that Apatow works with all the time.
I know.
All right.
23, 24 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Number one. There's in this listing, they only list one episode of this show, but there's really two episodes of this show that deal with D&D. But the show is Community.
Yep.
6 seasons in a movie.
6 seasons in a movie.
6 seasons in a movie. Still waiting on that.
Well, then there was COVID.
But anyway, this episode is called Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. The other episode is called Advanced
Yes.
Dungeons and Dragons. The one we're going to talk about here for the most part is season 2, episode 14.
But the other one is season 5, episode 10.
Season 5, episode 10 for Advanced
Yes.
Dungeons and Dragons. Now this actually... Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I think we were going to say the same thing.
No, you first.
So what I was going to say is this is a hard one to get to. You have to buy it because it's been removed from the streaming services because Ken Jeong's character, Professor Chang, is dressed as a dark elf, a drow. And so it looks like he's in blackface.
Right.
Shirley actually calls it out. She says, "Are we going to address this hate crime?"
Right.
But they've taken apparently a few episodes of 30 Rock down for the same reason. So you can still get to it. You just have to purchase it.
Right.
And honestly, it's worth watching.
Right.
It's such a great episode of TV.
I just want to mention. I'll mention this at the beginning because there is a trigger warning. This episode actually does touch on a very serious subject.
Yes.
That of someone unaliving themselves.
Yep.
So it really it's interesting for a comedy show who I guess touches on some serious subjects. This is a pretty serious subject to deal with. So there's a character by the name of Neil who ends up getting dubbed Fat Neil.
Right. Because he was standing next to the other Neil. Who's not really skinny.
He's bald and black. But Jeff Winger doesn't like.
He doesn't see things from that lens.
He doesn't see things from that lens. So,
Fat Neil.
But Fat Neil, Fat Neil is struggling with mental health issues and is really quite depressed, to the point of considering taking his life.
Well, so Jeff Winger befriends Neil and starts talking to him about Dungeons and Dragons because it's what Neil loves.
Right.
And he realizes things have really gotten to a bad point when Neil gives him all of his D&D books because he won't need them anymore.
Right.
And that is when Jeff convenes the study group.
Right.
And Abed puts together a game of D&D for all of them to play.
Correct.
But while they do accidentally include Chang, they very intentionally exclude Pierce because he is also known as Pierce the Dickish.
Yes.
And they don't want him making things worse. But of course, Pierce is always going to make things worse.
Oh, yes, he does. And it only exacerbates things by them excluding him. He makes things even more bad.
Yeah.
Than if he was just there.
Yeah.
From the get-go.
Yeah, because then he sets out to destroy them.
Right.
But that does also lead to the best part of the episode for me. I pity Pierce.
Yes.
Everybody uses their action to pity Pierce.
That's correct.
A naked 67-year-old man in the stars. He will die of exposure in 13 turns. I wait 14 turns. It really is a great episode. Again, they deal with a very difficult issue in kind of a lighthearted way, but it really just shows you just how much that party means to people. Like, yes. I also loved that it gave an opportunity to show just how kind Neil as a character is, because he never, immediately when Pierce starts being an ass, Jeff wants to fight back, right? He waits 14 turns because he's got to wait for Pierce to die of exposure.
Right.
And Neil gives Pierce his cloak.
Right.
And then Pierce steals his sword.
Right.
And then Pierce humps his sword. And
Pierce defiles. Pierce defiles. Does horrible things to that
sword.
Rub it
on my balls and throw it off a cliff.
Yes.
That was one of the. It's such a funny episode.
It is.
And it's so well executed. Like when they kill off Chang's character and he hands in his character sheet and then they show the character just disappear as he walks away.
Right.
It's all so silly. But again, as you said, it's handling this very kind of deep topic in a more lighthearted way. And they're all trying to be so protective of Neil.
Right.
And Pierce is just so butthurt and feeling excluded and, oh, you're stealing my friends, that it just devolves into chaos.
Right.
And that's one of the things they said in this article. They said, it says, the episode never drags viewers down with hyper-specifics. Nobody rolls for initiative, yet it harnesses the unbridled chaos that all tables devolve into.
Right.
Yeah. Like,
correct.
There's just a lot of, and I thought they did that part really effectively in the second D&D episode, where everybody is just shouting their actions over each other.
Right.
I thought that was a kind of fun part of the second one.
Yeah, correct. So yeah, in many of these episodes, the true mechanics of the game are not displayed. There's, with all the dice rolling and things like that, they do a nice job of including D&D, but they speed up the actual kind of gameplay by taking some shortcuts. So that you have to kind of suspend disbelief if you're a D&D purist. You're not going to see a real game of D&D being played. But yeah, I think they address a really serious subject in a good way, because and Neil gets to become the hero of the story.
And the thing is, Neil becomes the hero of the story because of Neil's innate kindness.
Right. Yeah, his character never changes.
Right. Well, and it's a character he's played forever.
Right.
His character is strong and true, and I think has a lot of and we've talked about this a bunch, has a lot of the same characteristics that Neil has as a person. He is kind. He is put upon. People are mean to him, and he remains kind.
He remains kind through all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which was good.
It also shows you a different side to the study group, who are innately kind of selfish and obnoxious.
You don't say.
In many cases, unlikable.
Right.
They call Abed the undiagnosable.
Yeah. What was Annie's character? Something the well endowed.
Oh gosh, yes. Because she ends up playing him in both campaigns. He keeps coming back.
Yes.
Hold on.
But I love how Annie just
Hector
the well endowed.
Yes.
She describes the scene with the
elf maiden.
The elf maiden. They play music over it, so you don't actually hear her.
But you can so read her lips.
You can totally read her lips. Well worth the scene watching it.
Very funny.
But again, yeah. So there's also advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Again, touches on a somewhat serious subject.
Yes, it's Professor Hickey.
Yeah.
Finds out that he wasn't invited to his grandson's 3rd birthday party. He's very hurt by being excluded by his son, whose name is Hank Hickey. Maybe that's why he's excluding him. He named
played by
Hank Hickey, David Cross.
Yes.
So they find out that Hank enjoys playing D&D. So, of course, they think, well, we fixed the whole situation with Neil.
They solved one problem with D&D.
So let's do it again.
Absolutely.
So they gather to play, and this time the dean is included, and ends up being Jeff's character's son.
Right.
Joseph Gordon.
Die Hard.
Joseph Gordon, Die Hard. And is just an absolute nightmare because he is so in love with Jeff.
Yes.
He ends up unaliving himself on a sword because he insists on hugging his father, who is holding his sword in front of him.
Right.
But it's another one where it turns out that Professor Hickey and his son actually can get along better when they're playing D&D, because they can take out a lot of the frustrations they have with each other through the game.
Right.
It's another very funny episode. I like when Shirley's character dies and she just picks up her purse and leaves.
Yes. Now that episode you can still watch on for free.
Yeah, on Netflix.
But the other one you have to purchase.
Yep.
I think, was it on Amazon as well?
No, they say Netflix and Hulu.
Netflix and Hulu.
I did not check Hulu. Let me do that real quick because I want to make sure we're telling people the right thing.
So so that covers the top 13. So would you? I would definitely put Community.
Yeah, Community is also on Hulu.
Excellent. I would definitely put Community as number 1.
I think Community.
Stranger Things, I think, should be like a special award.
Yeah, I mean, Stranger Things, I think, really brought D&D back into the mainstream.
Right. That's like a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah, really. Yes, I would leave Advanced Dungeons and Dragons at number 1. It's just really funny. I think the only ones, and I talked about it a little.
Right.
I think the only ones that I would change around, I'm not sold on Futurama being so high on the list.
Right.
I do think the Voltron Legendary Defender episode, and I didn't talk about it so much because I was hung up on names in the original Voltron series.
Right.
But I do think it was quite good in that it made the game immersive.
Mm-hmm.
And it did show a lot of that, like, you create the character for who you are.
Right.
Would I put it at number 3? I don't know. But would I put Freaks and Geeks at number 2? Probably not. Freaks and Geeks is a great episode,
right.
but it's not the D&D part of it.
It's not a Goldbergs episode.
No,
like Goldbergs,
was really funny.
Goldbergs was great.
Yeah, I'd move Goldbergs up a bit. Yeah, I mean, I do think I kind of feel like Dungeons and Dungeons and Dungeons and more dungeons or whatever it was called.
The Gravity Falls
Dungeons
episode.
And more dungeons should be higher.
Yeah,
it was very good.
But all that being said, for our opinions on where everything ranks, this is still a pretty solid list of TV shows worth watching. If you're a D&D fan, you may become a fan of some of these shows.
Yeah.
If you're not already. Like I said, IT Crowd.
Yeah, very funny.
Big fan of that one.
Yep.
Community, wholeheartedly.
Oh, man, yes.
Wholeheartedly love that show.
Yep.
So there's a lot of good ones on here that I think are worth watching. It's funny. Inverse mentions there's a Key and Peele sketch called "When Hip Hop and D&D Collide." Where did you find that one? Was it on YouTube?
It was on YouTube.
It was on YouTube. So, typical Key and Peele. If you're familiar with them, very, very funny. Jordan Peele is just hysterical as Kanye the Giant. Mm-hmm. So definitely check it out.
He wants his Alizé. Don't you want some elven meat? No. I want Alizé. And then he gets everybody else on his side.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's on board. It's 3 minutes long. If
it's a short sketch, but very funny. But again, great honorable mention. We'd probably throw Buffy in there as well, just for the sheer just lack of content that it was. It was just, like I said, I called it a blink and you miss it moment in the series finale.
Yes.
Yes.
Do we want to talk about this list of Buffy characters that you could create, or at least some of them?
Let's do it. We got time.
All right. So this is a Screen Rant article. It's called Buffy the Vampire Slayer, 10 characters you can play in Dungeons & Dragons and how to build them.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to choose a character? I mean, I can tell you the first one they put up there is Mayor Wilkins, which, unless you're a real Buffy fan, you're not going to know who that is.
Right.
Xander?
Who would I pick?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you the list, and then if you want to pick somebody, I'll tell you what they have to say.
I know which two I would probably pick. It would either be Xander or Oz.
I don't think they have Oz in here.
Okay, then I go Xander.
Okay, let me just check.
Eye patch Xander.
It is. Well, the photo is original style Xander,
okay.
But okay. So Xander, they say, is an eloquence bard 20. I don't know what any of that means.
A level 20 bard?
I know what a bard is.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what it says.
Yeah, I'll read it.
Despite Xander being the heart of the Scooby Gang, he isn't all that great at combat. What he does excel at is convincing even the most psychotic of people to put down their arms and talk. This makes Xander a shoo-in for Eloquence Bard, as all of their class features are geared toward talking well. It's even been said that his superpower is motivating his friends, so a good feat to take for him is Inspiring Leader, which grants temporary HP to people in the party. Expertise would have to be put toward Persuasion and Perception, as Xander is excellent at those qualities.
I get that. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Anybody else you're interested in hearing about?
Do they have Giles on the list?
They sure do.
What is?
So they have him as two different
cleric?
things. Eldritch Knight Fighter.
Ooh, okay.
And a Hexblade Warlock.
Ah, Hexblade Warlock. I could see that.
Okay.
Interesting.
So we've got Giles as Buffy's Watcher, and he is arguably the most experienced and wise of Buffy's original group. He's already an accomplished fighter, but what makes Giles stand apart from his wards is that he also incorporates magic into his fighting after his dealings with the Devon Coven. While he's no wizard, he's a master at using magic to an efficient degree. Hexblade represents his pact with the Devon Coven, and the Eldritch Knight Fighter perfectly represents Giles's intelligence and magic casting. Skill Expert is a feat that they should take to represent Giles's impressive career. Expertise is best put toward perception, being a watcher and all.
Very nice. That's pretty clever.
I do find it interesting that they make both Faith and Buffy... Faith and Buffy are both totem barbarians.
Interesting. Well, I mean, because they've got supernatural. I don't want to say supernatural strength, or kind of, but
yeah.
So I could see that. I could see a barbarian. I mean, multi-class them as like a barbarian, maybe fighter.
They go totem barbarian, battle master fighter.
Okay, yeah.
I want to see if they did the same thing for Faith. Champion fighter for Faith.
Yeah.
And then I'll just run through what they say for the others. Mayor Wilkins, who is the big bad. I don't remember which season. He's the big bad in a season. It's one of the high school ones because he tries to blow up the...
Right.
Yeah. Anyway. They say Celestial Warlock and Divine Soul Sorcerer.
Ooh.
We talked about Xander. Talked about Giles. Talked about Faith. Cordelia. Divine Soul Sorcerer and Divination Wizard. So this has got to be Angel Cordelia, not Buffy Cordelia.
Right.
Because she starts to have visions after Doyle dies in the first season of Angel. So that's what they're going on.
Makes sense.
Yeah, Cordelia is the resident oracle of the gang, and most of her help in the series is thanks to her visions. So they're definitely talking Angel, not Buffy.
Right.
Anya, an Archfey Warlock.
Ooh, I like that.
I mean, she's
That'd be fun.
A former vengeance demon, so
Right.
it makes sense. Angel, they have as a Kensei monk.
Fascinating.
He happens to be a master martial artist. He's said to be incredibly skilled in the art of weaponry. As for the race, he should be Dampier.
Right.
The rest of their vampire kit are all strangely fitting with the abilities of the monk class, such as endurance, superhuman speed, and long life. A good feat for Angel would be mobile, further making him hard to hit in battle.
Interesting. Okay. I can see all that.
Spike they have as a drunken master and a mastermind rogue.
Nice. I like that. I like that combo.
Okay, so this says Spike and Angel mostly have the same reasoning for their vampire traits, monk class and Dampier race. However, the difference is in their aptitude. Spike is a more impassioned and intellectual fighter who enjoys being in the fray and annoying his opponents into making mistakes. Drunken Master with a dash of Mastermind Rogue fits Spike to a T. Drunken Master involves a lot of unorthodox movements to avoid and deal damage. Mastermind Rogue's Master of Tactics feature allows the player to use the help action in combat as a bonus action, and Cunning action shows his versatility. Expertise would be an insight, as he had said to Buffy his greatest asset in combat was the ability to read his opponents. Okay.
Cool.
Willow's a Divine Soul Sorcerer, Evocation Wizard. We talked about Buffy,
Right.
and that's it.
Cool.
I thought that was interesting.
That's very interesting.
They have a ton of these lists. Like, the next one is 10 DC superheroes you can build in Dungeons & Dragons.
That's cool.
Yeah, they're interesting. It's kind of fun. Like, obviously, I was super excited. Harry Potter, the Dungeons & Dragons alignment of 10 main characters. So they've got a bunch of these, which is interesting.
Well, we'll definitely link to the Buffy article in the show notes.
It's all on Screen Rant, so if you just keep scrolling after the Buffy article, it goes into all the others. It goes into all that.
Cool.
Yeah,
all right. Cool. Excellent. Well, that covers the top 13 from this article. Again, We're going to post this on social media and everything. I would love to hear other people's comments as to other TV episodes and things that you've seen out there that mention D&D.
I've got all the time in the world to watch things too, so if you want to recommend episodes for the time being, I'd love to watch them.
You would. I would too. Awesome. So thank you everyone for joining us once again. Thank you to all of our listeners. I am so grateful to all of you for listening and giving this podcast a chance. Please share this podcast with your friends. You can help support the podcast as well by going to legendslootandlore.supercast.com. Help us out in any way, shape, or form. That would be greatly appreciated. Supercast is another platform like Patreon, specifically for podcasters. So check us out there. Check out our Discord server. We've got all sorts of things going on. So keep on listening, keep on sharing the show, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Legends, Loot, and Lore. We hope you've enjoyed immersing yourself in the realms of legends, uncovering hidden loot, and delving into captivating lore. But the journey doesn't end here. For exclusive content, behind-the-scenes insights, and access to our community, visit legendslootandlore.supercast.com. There you'll be able to support the podcast, where you can join our Discord server for lively discussions and subscriber-only content, and connect with fellow enthusiasts. Stay connected with us on Instagram and Facebook at Legends, Loot, and Lore to continue on the quest. By following our social media channels, you'll be the first to know about upcoming episodes, bonus content, and exciting announcements. If you've enjoyed your time with us, we kindly ask you to rate and subscribe to this podcast. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue producing captivating episodes and embarking on new quests. Thank you for being a part of our journey. We're thrilled to have you by our side as we unravel the legends, uncover the loot, and delve deeper into the lore. Until next time.